Okay, so we're diving into income inequality in Spain today. And I gotta say, when I saw this data from the Spanish tax agency, I was like, whoa, this is more than just numbers.
All right, let's hear it then. What's got you so intrigued?
Well, imagine this. You've got one municipality, Pozuelo de Alarcón, right outside Madrid, where the average income is over 85,000 euros. 85,000.
Yeah, that's a pretty hefty figure.
It is. Now, on the flip side, head over to Huesa, a municipality in Jaén, and the average income there is barely over 13,000 euros. It's like two different worlds within the same country.
Wow, that's quite a contrast. We're talking about a difference of over 70,000 euros.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, we're looking at gross income here before taxes.
Exactly. But even then, that gap is massive. And here's the kicker. It's not shrinking. It's actually growing. We're talking a 6% increase in the gap just from last year. 6%. Makes you wonder about the long-term implications for Spain's social fabric.
It's a trend that's hard to ignore. And it's not unique to Spain either. We see this pattern of widening income inequality playing out on a global scale. Remember the Gini coefficient?
Vaguely, Econ 101 was a while ago.
Right. Well, it's a way to measure income distribution. A score of 0, everyone earns the same total equality. Never really happens. A score of 100 means one person takes everything. Now, Spain's Gini coefficient has been creeping upwards, and it makes you wonder, is this a sign of things to come for other countries?
Yeah, it's like we're looking at a microcosm of a much bigger trend. So what's going on in those specific municipalities? You mentioned Pozuelo de Alarcón. What's driving that incredible average income?
Well, being practically neighbors with Madrid probably doesn't hurt.
Right. Proximity to a major economic hub must be a factor.
Absolutely. Think about it. Madrid, you've got finance, tech, tourism, all those sectors that attract high-skilled, high-paying jobs. And the data reflects that most of Spain's wealthiest municipalities are clustered around these economic powerhouses. Madrid, Barcelona is a clear pattern.
So it's like a magnet drawing and skilled workers further fueling the income gap between regions. A bit of a self-perpetuating cycle.
Precisely. And that's why it's so important to dig deeper to understand not just the what of income inequality, but the why.
Yeah.
What's causing this gap to widen, and what does it tell us about the future of Spain's economy?
And more importantly, what can be done to address it? We've talked about the economic powerhouses, but what about those municipalities on the other side of the spectrum, like Huesa, where incomes are a fraction of what people in Pozuelo de Alarcón are earning? What's happening there?
That's where things get even more interesting. We need to peel back the layers, look beyond those top-line figures. Because when we look at those municipalities at the lower end of the income spectrum, we see a different kind of concentration.
Okay, I'm sensing a but coming. Not exactly next-door neighbors to Madrid, are they?
You got it. We're talking about regions like Extremadura and Andalusia, often more reliant on agriculture and traditional industries.
Which are essential, of course, but maybe not exactly known for those Silicon Valley salaries.
Exactly. And it highlights how location and industry play a huge role in shaping income disparities. But it's crucial to remember, we're talking about averages here.
Right, like not everyone in Huesa is struggling, and I'm guessing even in Pozuelo de Alarcón, there are people counting pennies.
Precisely. Averages only tell part of the story. We need to zoom in on those individual experiences, the human side of these statistics. For example, take Valdemosa.
Valdemosa.
Okay.
Vaguely rings a bell.
It's this picturesque town in the Balearic Islands. Thinking stunning coastline, charming villages, a haven for artists.
Ah, right. No, I remember. Definitely not hurting for visitors.
Exactly. And that's reflected in their average income over 67,000 euros, second highest in Spain.
Tourism dollars at work. Hotels, restaurants, local crafts, it creates a ripple effect.
Precisely. Valdemosa's unique character, its history, its natural beauty, they all contribute to its economic success. It shows how a region's identity can shape its economic trajectory.
It's like this intricate economic puzzle, each piece interconnected.
Exactly. But while it's tempting to focus on those extremes, the reality is most Spanish municipalities fall somewhere in between. We're talking about a whole spectrum of average incomes, reflecting the incredible diversity of Spain's regions and industries.
So it's not as simple as rich cities versus poor countryside.
Not at all. It's far more nuanced.
No.
You've got coastal towns thriving on tourism, industrial centers, specializing in manufacturing, and then those rural communities, each with their own unique challenges and opportunities.
Which brings us back to those averages. They give us a general sense of things, but it's the individual stories, the ones hidden behind the data points, that really paint the complete picture.
Absolutely. Because for every municipality with a sky-high average income, there are people struggling to make ends meet. And within those regions facing economic challenges, you'll find pockets of innovation entrepreneurship people working hard to create a better future for themselves and their families.
So how do we even begin to address this income gap, this complex web of factors that seems so deeply woven into the fabric of Spanish society?
Ah, that's the million-euro question. There's no magic bullet, no one-size-fits-all solution. But by understanding the why behind those numbers, we can start to formulate more effective strategies.
Okay, so where do we start? We've looked at the geographical disparities, the highs, the lows, even dipped our toes into the tourism boom. What's next?
Well, to really get to the heart of this, we need to move beyond description and into analysis.
Mhm.
We need to ask some tough questions about the root causes of these disparities. Things like education for starters.
Right, access to quality education is crucial from early childhood all the way through to higher education and vocational training. It's the foundation for economic opportunity.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual outcomes. A more educated workforce attracts investment fuels. Innovation drives economic growth.
Sure.
So we need to ask ourselves, are there disparities in access to quality education across Spain?
Yeah.
And if so, how do we bridge that gap?
Okay, education check. What other pieces of this economic puzzle are we missing?
Well, infrastructure is huge. And I'm not just talking roads and bridges, although those are important. I'm talking about digital infrastructure, access to high-speed internet, the lifeblood of today's economy. Then you have access to affordable healthcare, which impacts not just individual well-being, but also workforce productivity.
So it's about creating a more equitable playing field, investing in the people and the systems that allow them to thrive.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another critical factor: government policies, tax policies, social welfare programs, investments in specific industries. These can all have a huge impact on income distribution and economic mobility.
It's like governments have all these levers they can pull to either exacerbate or mitigate this income gap.
Exactly. And then, of course, there are the broader, more systemic factors at play.
Right, like those historical inequalities we often overlook.
Exactly. Things like land ownership patterns, industrial development that might have favored certain regions, even cultural attitudes towards work and wealth. These factors can have a ripple effect across generations, shaping the economic landscape we see today.
It's like we're talking about this intricate tapestry woven from threads of history, policy, and individual choices. So where does that leave us? We've dug into the data, explored those geographic disparities, even glimpsed those individual stories. But what's the takeaway for our listeners? What's the thought that'll stick with them?
I think the biggest takeaway is the power of perspective. Moving beyond those national averages and really understanding the unique challenges and opportunities facing different communities within Spain. It's about recognizing that a one-size-fits-all approach to economic policy,
Yeah.
well, just doesn't cut it.
It's like that saying, the forest is beautiful, but look closely and you'll see each tree is unique.
Exactly. Each municipality, each region has its own story to tell. And by appreciating both the individual threads and the overall tapestry, we can start crafting more targeted, more effective solutions.
Solutions that address those root causes, empower people, and ultimately foster more inclusive economic growth. It's about creating a Spain where your zip code doesn't determine your destiny.
Well said. And that's what makes this whole topic so fascinating, so important to discuss. It's not just about numbers, it's about people, their lives, their futures.
This deep dive has been, without a doubt, eye-opening. It's a stark reminder that behind those economic indicators are real people facing real challenges. But it's also a call to action, an invitation to think critically about the kind of future we want to create, not just for Spain, but for everyone.
Couldn't agree more. And remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We've given you the key insights, the framework, but the real exploration starts now. So go out there, do your own digging, and form your own conclusions.
And until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep asking those tough questions.